Winners. Another winner. Here we go. I put these in one bucket here. Winners. The doublers. I'm talking about Javon Harrison, swept the high jump and the long jump. I'm talking about Woody Kincaid, who made it in the 5 and the 10. I'm talking about Grant Fisher, who made it in the 5 and the 10. I'm talking about Kershaw Schweizer, who made it in the 5 and the 10. We didn't have anybody make it in the team in the 100 and the 200 on the men's and women's sides, which was interesting. But those 4 made it in both events. Most impressive of that group, I'd say Javon Harrison did them both on the same day and did a double that most people have never done before. In fact, you have to go back to 1912 and Jim Thorpe before another American won the high jump and the long jump in the same day. Also, he won them both, whereas Fisher, Kincaid, and Schweizer didn't sweep both of them. And you look at the performances from Javon Harrison, brings out his best long jump of his life in that competition, goes 8:47. He's got a chance, Gordon, to do something special in Tokyo. This is not just a U.S. story. This is going to become a world story pretty soon.
Yeah, I want to bring up the world rankings, or not rankings, the world lists for both of those events to see how close Javon is to double gold, which would be incredible if that happened. So Travis will bring it up. I do know in the high jump, he's second behind a Russian. So we don't even know if that Russian's going to be there. I'm not sure exactly all. They
Authorized
did announce
neutral athlete.
the authorized neutral athlete.
Team ANA. Okay.
Yeah, so he's second behind. Yeah.
Barely second. Okay.
Barely. And then in the long jump, he, I believe, is second as well behind a Greece athlete. Yeah. Behind Miltiades. I'm going to get in trouble here. Miltiades Tetogulo. Did I get that right?
This is why we have such a vast international audience. Okay, he's jumped 860. My Greek is not good, so
okay.
I will just say you did a good job trying. And
thank you.
Tentagolu, 860. Okay, so he's number 2 in both. It's a pretty good spot to be in going into Tokyo.
Yeah, and his number 2 mark was into a headwind, into a negative 0.2 headwind. You got to think he has been consistent. Like when he jumped in the long jump, all 5 of his jumps were over 8 meters. So he didn't have any duds. You have to think he's going to be able. He's shown consistency. He's gone through an indoor season, an outdoor season, and now was able to time everything, to do everything all in one day. I think he can medal. I think he can win double gold. Who would have thought? Like that he was like he's a man who's going to win 2 gold medals at the Olympics. This is wild to go from, oh man, can he win NCAAs? Oh yeah, now it's a lock to now like double gold potentially being a legitimate thing that could happen. That's wild.
And he stuck with those 2 events. It's not as if when the competition got harder, he switched up and just tried to focus on one. He kept going with this double. That's what's so cool about it. Just a sensational performance for him in Eugene, and hope he can keep it going. He's just got to hold the momentum now for another month or so to get it to Tokyo. On those distance doubles, we've talked about Kincaid and Fisher and Schweizer and the decision they face on whether or not they're going to actually compete in both. I think that they will end up running in both. I think the revelation for Kincaid was just his kick. I think Schweizer, we knew who she was. We knew how good she was. It's just a matter of doing it in a championship setting. And with Fisher, it's just the consistency and being right there in the mix in both races. Very similar to how he ran in college. Didn't always win in college, but he was always up there in the top 3 and contending at the line. And he's transferred that now to the professional style of racing.
Speaking of his college, I want to bring up, I'm going to send this to Travis. Travis, I want you to go to flash results, the 2016 NCAA Outdoor Championships. I'm going to text message it to you so we can bring it up for people on the YouTube audience. Um, this was Woody Kincaid's final NCAA championship. He was like a fifth-year senior, I believe, and he finished ninth in the 5K final. Now, on paper, when we look at a 5K final, like, all right, he's ninth. I really don't see a path to go from ninth to now like the best kicker in the U.S. And he did lose to legitimate people. You know, Cheserek, McGorty, Tiernan was in there. Fisher, McDonald were there. He did
beat a 1250 guy. Yeah,
yeah, but he beat the sophomore 1250 guy who wasn't good yet, and Justin Knight. But if you look at this list, he just looks like in the same. He doesn't look like he's in the same category as McGorty and Cheserek, or even the Fisher and McDonald, the two freshmen, because he just got beat pretty handedly. But if you scroll up and click on splits, I found this fascinating. Click on the word final, Travis. Yeah. And go look at the last 400. Guess who had the fastest last 400 in this field of 24? The guy who finished ninth. He closed in 56 seconds. The winners closed in 57 seconds. He closed in 56.65, which was faster than what Ches did and what McGorty did. And it kind of just like, it's a low key, like no one saw that happening because he was back in ninth. But I think that was proof. I mean, 56 closed off of a 332 pace in college at that time, and now everyone's running much faster then. But during that era, that's a legitimate close off of a hot pace. And clearly there was something there, and now we're seeing it in 2021 where he's closing in 52 and 53 seconds. And I mean, his close was the best close of the trials. It's better than Chalimo's. I think it's better than Fisher's. I'm not sure if it's better than Hawker, but they're not in the same events anymore, so we could take that off the map. But like in the distance events, he's our best closer right now.
Yeah, 100%. And this is a great stat to bring up. Basically, he's hiding in plain sight. And maybe people who were figuring out who to give contracts to were looking at things like this. They weren't just looking at the ninth place, but they were looking at the closing speed and who can layer on some more strength and endurance to that speed, give it a little bit more of a seasoning, and then have him turn into what he's turned into now. Because he graduates in 20, his PB came right before that meet, 13:27. So he graduates with the 13:27 PB. In 2016, that's a good time. 2021, 13:26, I don't think that would get you anything. It wouldn't get you any. Like you'd be 50? You'd be 100 meters behind Cooper Tier at the NCAA championships. And then, from there, 2017, he drops it all the way down. He runs that 13:12 indoors. But
then he gets hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Then he gets hurt, and then things get kind of confusing because then you're like, well, what's his progression at? Because in 2019 he comes back and runs 12:58. But I think we need to start talking about that more, looking at that stuff more when we're forecasting who's going to be able to make the step from college to pro, of just because we know it's so dependent on just that top end speed, even in something that long. Start looking at those closing metrics and see who has it. Yeah, that's a good stat, man. That's a good. I wonder if you could predict even like how fast did Knight close? Did Knight close well in that race too? Is there a predictive factor here?
Knight didn't close well in that race. Because Knight ran a 70. He was in it and then just fell off. But Knight was a sophomore. Knight had yet to really. Yeah. I think this was.
He was running 30 miles.
Maybe he either had a bad race or it's the season before he got good. So, yeah. But
he was literally running 30 miles or something a week his sophomore year at Syracuse. There's an interview you can find that we did with him where he told me his mileage by year, and I think he said he got up to 60 by the time he left, but he was adding about 10 miles every